My POI preference is through chat. So you can just chat me if you want to give POI. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The Americanization of social justice debate is extremely bad for the proliferation of the local activism and social movement advocation, because it creates less relatability to the people that we need to pander, less access to the people to access the sort of information where the action is rooted upon, and it puts American as the center of the world social activism debate, a country in which the problem of like democratic system is still imperfect, racism still exists, gender inequality is still persistent. But also, it allows for more conservative opposition to attack us when we base our activism on Americanization, because they can frame us as too liberal or too radical, or we like support country that is just too interventionist and has a lot of problem domestically and in their own foreign policy. So I'm going to do two arguments in my speech. First, what is wrong in the Americanization of social justice debate, and second, why the comparison of localization of social justice debate is better in the side of opening government. So firstly, there are few reasons why this is bad, because first and primarily is that you will just simply lose relatability and public buy-in that you are necessarily needing, because the people that we need to pander upon to have more buy-in to our social movement are specifically not the liberal individuals, because they're still going to be liberal and empathetical towards the cause of social movement and minority anyway in both sides of the house, but also not the conservative groups, because they're still going to attack us regardless because of their sexism, patriarchy, religiosity that we have inherent difference against. We need to pander into the gray area individuals that are still undecided voters, that are still confused whether to become more progressive or conservative, on how to win their hearts and mind, is to create more relatability towards them. The problem with Americanization is people will be pushed away or being distant or being less relatable to your movement, because they feel like there is no personal stake on them when we try to Americanize our issue. Why would you care about the police department like reform in US right now if you try to similarize it with other police brutality to other case in other country, because they feel less personal stake, because they feel like they couldn't understand an issue that is just miles and kilometers away from them. They simply will not be able to be relatable and understand your issue. They will be pushed away. But the second reason is because you will reduce access to the people to understand this issue, because when you try to Americanize the social justice debate, you will also focus to not only the issue in US, but also on how the political expertise in the US try to bring about this issue, about the journals, about the research, about the think tanks discussion that exists in the US itself. Because you need to know their original understanding on this issue, right? It means that you most likely are going to use English-based journals, the academia, or the political expertise ideas that are English-based, that is not accessible to a lot of developing countries that still have problems of social justice. You could not use this English-based academia and English-based discussion to advocate to more people because they simply don't understand English, or you couldn't use this and as a policy-based discussion in the parliament because simply they would not be able to understand this. But the third harm is that you are going to be able to attach the negative image that America has with your social movement, because US is not perfect, right? There is still like political donors that is being unchecked in their money politic system, on how the privatization of the healthcare that still makes people are unable to have access, gender inequality, racism. It means when you highlight on Americanization on your social justice issue, the conservative group are still going to be able to use political weapon to either discredit your issue, because you're going to say, why would you put the America as the country that still have a lot of problems as the center of your social justice issue. You are going to be perceived as hypocrite for like making America that is imperfect and try to criticize the imperfect system that exists in this developing world. But it also allows the Conservative Party to justify some of their action, because they could say, like, look, even the US is imperfect. Why would you expect us to be as perfect as what you expect as social movement? But more than that, US still have a lot of negative perception in a lot of developing world through their invasion in Afghanistan, in Iraq, that put a lot of collateral damage on how US is being perceived as too interventionist, that try to tamper to the domestic needs of the country and try to bypass the democratic system of this particular nation. This will allow the conservative to use the political weapon that your agenda is not representative towards the people, that you are just part of globalist elite US system that just wants to interfere and create massive overhaul to your entire system. Meanwhile, in our side of the house, we can say when it's more localized, it is much more, step by step. It's not gradual. It's not going to affect individuals in such extreme stance. But I think this is bad, especially in things that are taboo. For example, feminist movement in US, they already reached like third or fourth stage of feminism. It means like they focus on like sexual liberation. They focus on things like allowing more people in Hollywood industry to get equal payment. These are the things that are relatable towards the problem in developing world that is still revolve around on how to prevent marital abuse, on how to give more economic needs to the people on the ground, on how you can solve the problem of just simply blue-collar working class women to get more protection from sexual harassment. But when you try to frame your feminist issue in the developing world to Americanization, it means that conservative could say that, oh, you just want to have sexual liberation, you just want to like a lot of women just walking nude in the street. I think these are just nonsensical, but this will be bought by a lot of gray area individuals that believe America is too liberal and you will have less buy-in. But before that, CEO. If CO doesn't have any, yes.
Okay, just to be clear, America is a complicated country with a very long history that has gone through multiple atrocities. Do you not feel like at any point in that history, we will find a reference point suitable for these nations?
But this is the problem, right? If you want to use US as your example, it means that you need to have the issue in US to reach a critical mass so you can relate it to your social issue. The problem is US doesn't always have the same problem or doesn't have like specific time frame that you need to relate to the problem in US. For example, if you talk about Indonesia and the problem of, the problem of like Papuan independence, you couldn't relate it to the US because US doesn't have any separatist movement. It means that you can have the ability to sustainably push for a local issue because US doesn't have that particular problem. What is the comparative in our side of the house? We still have like sizable amount of population that can still relate to your issue because people will still talk about their daily experience. People will have relatability. We are going to use like local narrative that you need to like be able to care about your like woman fellows, because imagine if the one that is being sexually harassed is your mother, is your sister. We can still use this particular narrative. You can still talk about how some ethnic need to be protected because they are fighting along with you in the independence. At least you're not hijacked. At least you can be more organic in our side of the house.
All right.